Today's session is all about how to get the most out of reporting within MARKUS. I'm going to break it down into some sections for you, all about reporting. And so we'll start with how to actually run reports within MARKUS. We'll focus a little bit on KPIs, financial reporting, operational reporting, day-to-day, and I've put a section at the end there for miscellaneous. We'll get to that. You'll see why I've called it that when we get to the end. Now, we won't be running every report that I mention live, and I certainly won't be showing you every single report we have, because in the system we have upwards of about 700 reports they touch on absolutely everything that you might ever need, some things that you might never need in your organisation. So I couldn't possibly go into everything, but what I've tried to do is give you a top 5 of my favourite reports, or the things that I think people find most useful for each of those sections. First things first, a bit of basics about reporting. Really, any screen that looks like that on the screenshot that you can see in front of you, where it's a table of results with a bunch of blue bold words separated by columns and an update filters button, that's a report. So it doesn't have to be something that you access from the report menu. It could be something that you've attacked from, say, the dashboard. You've clicked on a number, or you've been on a operative diary and you've clicked a number from there, and it's taken you into something, a list like that. That's a report. And so these can be anything. It could be a list of purchase orders, it could be a list of your operatives, a list of users. Absolutely anything in the system displayed in that manner is a report. And so one of the most important things I think is useful for you is knowing how to use a report and how to manipulate the data that you're looking at. And this is one of the first things I show on day one of a training session when I get into a user's office for the very first time to do an implementation, is I show people how to do what I'm about to show you now. Because I think a lot of people actually forget that this is a report and how you can work it. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to step us into our demo system. This is our local demo system, so it's got all made up data, so it won't be anywhere near as fancy looking as maybe what yours does, and certainly not maybe as in depth in terms of financials, but it certainly should give you a good flavour of what all these reports do. So we'll start by the thing I've just mentioned, which is clicking off a dashboard. So any of these blue numbers, as you know, you can click into them and we get something that looks like this. We can use our columns. So if we wanted to sort in postcode order, we can do that. Notice the little green downwards arrow. If I sort it the other way, we go that way. Same on dates. We can sort descending or ascending. Alphabetically, numerically, whatever you want to do, we can sort them. So that just does a quick sort on our column. So that's one quick way of doing a very fast report. If you wanted to say report on anything where the receive date is the oldest, you could do that by very quickly clicking on the heading, and that tells you what it is. We always show you the number of results. So if you were to use, say, find job, the number of results here could be the answer to the question you've got in your hand at the moment. How many jobs did we receive yesterday? Well, that's your number. So you could use that to help you doing a report that is not actually a specific report you need. That might just do it. The other thing we can do is we can add and change the filters. So we don't need to go away and close this screen and go back and start again. If we said, let's see in this list of 206 results, how many of those jobs were received this month? Well, that's quite straightforward to do from this screen. Any of these blue bold items that look like a link when you hover over them are all report filters that you can access. So if I click on receive date and I pop in the first of the month, if you double click, by the way, in a calendar or press the enter key on your keyboard, it puts today's date in automatically. And also something that not a lot of people know, if I wanted to say do this at 15th of August, if I was to do 15 and then press enter, it defaults to the current month. So there's some handy little shortcuts there that not everybody knows about. So just to save you a bit of time, you don't always have to go into here and start choosing the date yourself. So if I did all of August and then I press update filters, we've got 206 results so far. If I press the update filters button, that takes us down to 16. And we can see here where it says filtered by, we're filtering on the things with a green tick, and that is the status of awaiting allocation and also a received date range of that. Let's say I wanted to take that date range off and show me all gas jobs that we've got going on at the moment. If I click here, it turns into a red cross. That means it's going to remove that filter. And if I then go up to our list of filters here, trade in this demo system at the moment, because we did a demo on it recently, is actually called skill set, but that might be captioned trade in your system. Choose gas, press update filters, and now you can see I've got two results where the skill set is gas and the status is awaiting allocation, and the date field has disappeared. So that little technique of using the filters, changing them and updating the filters to get your results changed is something that once you've mastered that, you've practically mastered reports within Markus. That's literally all you need to know in many ways. In every report that we have, if we scroll to the right hand side, now some reports are longer than others, depends on the number of fields you've got, we have some options. The most commonly used one by most of our users is export. That exports to a CSV file, so you can mess around with your results in Excel, send them to your client, do whatever you need with them. Personalizing, I'm going to mention it. You can personalize a report so that it shows you the data that you want to see. So you've got two columns of fields that you can play with. The one on the left, where you've got this show, this influences which ones show up on the report. So if I just close that for a moment and go back into our report, if I scroll right to the other side, we've got all these optional extras to do with assets. So possessions, let's see, they're completely irrelevant. I don't want to see those. If I hit personalize, scroll down to those and then untick them from my report here. Got a couple of random fields that we seem to have deleted as well in our demo system. If I press save, and if I just, for completeness, take us back into that report from the dashboard, you'll see the ones regarding possessions have now disappeared. So you can personalize your report to remove fields that, let's say, are completely irrelevant to either your business or to your role. So always remember that you can do that. But what is really important to remember is that you remember that you have done that, because what you might then find is that your screen looks completely different to the person sat next to you, and none of you can work out why your report shows one thing and the other person can't see it. It might be that you've removed it from your view, or they have theirs. So the column on the set of columns on the right allow you to predefine filters. Now this one I would possibly say is quite a dangerous thing to do unless you are deliberately doing it for a very specific reason and you know you've done it. The reason why is you can pre-populate this with a specific thing so that it will always run that report and always filter for that thing. So every time you click from the dashboard, if you specify a skill set of gas and save that, every time you run that, click anything from items requiring action on the dashboard to get into that report for the appointment booking report, you'll only ever see gas jobs. Now that might be really useful in a world where cost code is being used. Some of our customers use cost code to things like account manager or supervisor or a job owner. If all you want to see is your own jobs, then having that cost code or the job owner set as you will mean that when you go onto your dashboard and you click into these numbers, the jobs you see will be yours. So it can be a really useful tool, but equally, if you accidentally, which we have had customers do this, predefine, say, a personalized filter of show all, or they set a date range because they were interested in a date range of last month, and they're wondering why they only ever see a month's worth of jobs, it's because they've possibly done that. So just be very careful on there. But that's what that does. It enables you to personalize your report. The other options available to you, I'll just quickly mention, is print. That will create a PDF file of the results. Small reports work well with those if you've got like just a handful of columns because it fits nicely on a page. Something like this one that's quite lengthy doesn't look so great in a PDF. Normally what you'd do with those is export them to Excel and make them look good. Pin allows you to pin a report so that it appears here. So if I just do this one now as an example, this is the appointment booking report. If I pin that and then I press my home button to refresh, that will now add in the appointment booking report. So that one now, I've not labelled it properly in the demo, I apologise, but it will pin it to your reports menu for you to use next time. That's I think the basics of running a report, I've just sort of covered off a quick basic tour of the adding in of filters and that kind of thing. One of the options you've got when you start running reports from, say, the report menu, or even, I think this one here is actually find job, you've got options to filter your data before you start. So the example I showed you just a moment ago, I clicked into a number on the dashboard. Well, this allows you to predefine your filters. So you've got text containing fields. Those are the white ones where you can type a word, part of an address, for example, part of a job description, anything like that. You've got your live searches. We all probably know what they are. They're the blue search fields where you use your, you start typing and it finds a match for you. We've got what's called a tri-state checkbox. That's these large checkboxes here. Just for ease, I will show you that now. There's one there. So if I click it, it puts a tick. If I click again, it puts a cross. And if I then click again, it removes it. That would be a tri-state checkbox. And whilst I'm here, you've got a standard true or false checkbox here. And also you've got what's known as radio buttons where you can select a option from those as well. So back to our slide, you can see all those things on a report and how they work. One thing I should mention as well, if I go back to find job, hiding at the very bottom, in some of our reports, there's an option for showing advanced filters. Not everybody knows that's there, and if you click it, what happens is it reveals more fields. So in find job, for example, I think one of the fields that doesn't show by default is status. You can use that by revealing the advanced filters from the bottom, and you can hide those as well to make them a smaller list. So if you're in doubt whether a field exists, have a look and see if there's the advanced filter option to reveal it. Now we've got sort of the essentials. What I'd like to show you is some useful reports that, that I think are useful and some of our customers do as well. So we're going to begin with KPIs. So KPIs, key performance indicators, you might call them SLAs, service level agreements. Common ones that clients ask for, certainly in the social housing sector, sometimes in other sectors as well, would be things such as first time fix, time to complete a job, appointments made and kept. Sometimes people ask for customer satisfaction. That just depends whether or not you've done any customer satisfaction surveys on the mobile app or not. And also you've got the report of breakdown of jobs completed inside and outside of response. Now, not every client asks for these. If you work to these, then these reports are always available to you, and most people's systems have them set up in the report menu, looking a little bit like this, prefixed with KPI. So you've got KPI first fix, time to complete, and so on. So we've been working with clients a number of years and across a whole range of industries, and we've developed reports to cover most of the scenarios that clients will throw at you. If you encounter new specific KPIs or new reporting requirements that your clients need, get in touch. And it might be that it's in the system already and you just haven't found it, or it might be that we need to maybe develop something for you. We're open to that. Just give us a shout. I will do a demo of a couple of these. So if I go into our little demo system, I'll just go back to the dashboard. First time fix. If I go to our first fix report, so again, very familiar looking thing here. We've got lots of search fields to go at. I'm going to use a received date range of the year to date, just because our demo data is quite limited in terms of how many jobs we do, because we're not like you. So I'm going to do year to date. I'm going to also break down by client. This allows us to filter the results and break it down a client each row. So you'll see what that looks like in just a moment. If I press search, that will produce a nice first time fix report broken down by the customer. So these are all our clients in our demo system. They're not very exciting. Your systems will have a lot more than that, and certainly a lot larger volume of jobs, but it gives you an idea. So it shows you number of visits you've got, how many things were fixed on the first, how many you've had multiple, total jobs involved, and so on. We can also specify a particular customer. So if I wanted to manipulate my filters, I can show a particular client. I can also bring in a breakdown, say, by contract. If I click on there and I update my filters, I now see that client but broken down by the different work streams that we've got going on: day-to-day, reactive, gas servicing, and so on. So you've got your first time fixes where we've got these confirmed and unconfirmed, and then obviously the confirmed first fix percentage. Right. So I want to explain what that means. So if I find a quick job, the first time fix report works off whether or not the job was fixed on the first or completed on the first visit. That sounds obvious. However, the system is clever. It will work out whether or not a visit has happened and if one visit has happened. And so we will flag a job as being a first time fix if you only attend once and mark it complete. That will be a first time fix. If, however, you turn up to site the first time to measure up and then you go out the second time to actually do the job, you could argue that was a first time fix. The first visit wasn't really a visit, it was going out to do the measuring. You can override that system, and that's what we call by a confirmed first time fix. And this comes in when you approve a completed job onwards. Now, your green buttons might be worded differently. In my system, it's approved. When I hit that, I get the advanced completion screen showing up. And on here, we have a tick box for first time fix. Now, this job here was done on the first visit, so it's automatically ticked. If it wasn't, it would be unticked, and you could apply a tick with a comment about going out the first time to do a measuring up or a no access or whatever. And then when you push that job onwards, that job then appears in the first time fix report because you've confirmed it as such. We've got the time to complete. So I'm not going to show a demo of this one in a live system. This is actually the screenshot I've given you is from one of our customers' systems, hence why I've blurred out some of the information, but I thought it would be good to see an example how it might look in a live database. So the average time to complete a job does what it says on the tin. If your customers want to know how long it's taking you to complete jobs, or indeed you do for your management meetings, this one will work really well. You can break down by all the filtered options that you can see here on the left, and you can show the average time in a nice sort of English and also in days. You've got options to break down by priority, client, work order type, that's contract, and so on. So what you can do there is you can do filters to say, of all our contracts for this client, how long are we taking to complete the job? Because actually a void work you would take longer to complete than your day-to-day reactives. So you would usually break them out a little bit like that. Oh, I might just mention there is a column here for excluded jobs. Before you ask, that is things that you don't want counted within your figures, and that's basically no accesses and any jobs that have been cancelled. You wouldn't count those towards your stats because they've been cancelled and you haven't completed it. So we've got customer satisfaction reports. So if you have got the customer QA set up on the mobile app, that's a really useful report. You can break down by question and you can see the answers, whether they've either been answered or the answers that they've provided. And you can click into each of these and drill down into what the answers were. Some clients want to just see this. There are dashboard widgets that allow you to report on this as well. So you can just see a percentage. Again, if you're using the customer satisfaction on the mobile app, really useful. If you're not, completely irrelevant to anything you're doing. Appointments made and kept. Again, another KPI. Only works for appointments though. I'll explain what that means. When you use issued job, you must tick the appointment flag for this to be working. So the appointments made and kept report will only track appointments. And so what we mean by that, if I was to go back into our job that I had open just a moment ago, there it is. I'll just go back to the job sheet. If I was to hit issue job, when I choose, let's say, this person here today, there's the appointment flag here. If I was to book in a slot, it also appears here. If I tick that, that job will then show up on the appointments made and kept report as a statistic. If you don't use the appointment flag, you won't get results showing up for you. The only difference to the engineer on the mobile app would be that they would see, instead of a little calendar icon, they see a picture of an alarm clock and words, well, the word appointment in bold red letters, so they know that they're due to attend at 10 a.m. So that's your appointments made and kept. That's the top 5 KPI reports. So to move on to the next section, well, financials are everyone's favourite, except they're not always. It's dull, but everyone wants to know it. So the top financial reports that I set up on day one are listed there. and the job cost report, the job site report, the period cost and sales, work in progress and reserve accruals. Now, those are really powerful reports, and I will show you now a quick demo of the job cost report just to drill down into it to show you how it works. It's my favourite report that I give out on day one to pretty much anybody that cares about financials, because it shows you everything no matter which way you cut the data. So if I go into our reports menu and I hit the job cost report, which is here, you can see I've got a whole bunch of fields to go at. I can filter by client, contracts, you name it. And I've got all these tick boxes at the bottom to break down my results. So if you imagine a breakdown is a bit like how you would cut your data in a pivot table in Excel. It's how you choose to cut the data to display it in the number of rows and what you see in the rows. So let's go with my favourite little demo customer. And I'm going to do the completed date range year to date. So there. And I could break down by contract if I so wished. So let's do that. And then when I hit search, that will give me a report that looks a little bit like that. So that's got all our contracts listed separately in rows. We've got all the financials that relate to it and the numbers of jobs that relate to those that you can delve into. Now, what I will point out on this report is it should make a lot of sense to you. So you've got your total number of jobs, jobs that are still live, jobs that have been fully charged, and then while I mentioned that, the red, these are the sales, labour, parts and costs that relate to the fully charged jobs. And then the profit on that end is the profit based upon jobs that have been fully charged. You've got the ones that are still in progress this side, or sorry, rather the total here, estimated sales versus actuals, and you can drill down into each of them and see what you want to see depending on what numbers you're interested in on that day. You can also break down by trade. You can all the different breakdown options. Just depends on how you want to run this. It's a really powerful report. However, if I click into, let's say, the 11 jobs there, that takes us into a report that shows us the same data, but for the jobs. So if you had a particular anomaly that you were a bit like, well, that looks a bit weird, what's wrong with that number? You can click into the number and have a look, and you can see straight away what's going on. So we've got a job here that's worth a lot of money. You go, that's what it is. You can find it very quickly on the individual job and then step into the individual job itself. So from a really high level summary report, such as that, there, you can then click straight into each of the jobs and it'll give you, at the end of it, the actual job straight away. So you've got full visibility. The other report that I listed on my list here, which was the job site report, very similar to this, but gives you everything. Now, Ian, our technical director, he calls this the Swiss Army knife of reports. It's basically the one that if you need to find something, this is probably your answer. The job site report has every field that you could possibly think of to filter on, including advanced ones. And you can run this and get literally everything. So let's have a quick look for the same sort of thing. I'm going to run new Slafford housing. And I'm going to do jobs that were completed this month. Let's see if there's any in there. And then I press search. There we go. It's just the one. That's handy. So we get the basics, all the job information. We get all the operatives that have attended, any live operatives or scheduled ones that are currently due to be issued work. You've got the address, obviously. Keep going over here. We've got all the dates. You've got received, target dates, completed dates. We've got the estimated sales. We've got all the financials that you could think of to do with that job. So the sales estimate, the actual sales, costs, committed costs on purchase orders, delivered costs and invoiced costs as well. So you've got all the different levels of purchase order costing as well. Finally, we have the profit summaries and any values that have either been applied for or invoiced. If I scroll a bit further over, we also have when the job was last changed status. and also information to do with the visits as well. And one of the recent additions to this report is here. We added in invoice numbers and the most recent invoiced date. So somebody, I forget which client it was, asked us to add in when the most recent invoice was on this job and allow us to present the invoice number so you could step into it. So we did it, and this gives you literally every single piece of information you might ever need to know about a job. Work in progress. I'm not going to talk about it. I mentioned it on the slide. It does what it says on the tin, doesn't need a demo. It is literally your work in progress at the moment. You can run it by client, of course, if you needed to see your work in progress for a client, but generally your accountant, when they run this, or indeed somebody who's in charge of accounts, will generally click show all, run, and it'll show you what all your work in progress looks like at the moment from sales down to costs. And of course, you can drill into the jobs to see what those are. The last one on my financials was something that the accountants really like, and that's the reserves and accruals report. Often run at month end or at the end of an accounting period to see what the state of your purchase orders is that you've got outstanding commitments on. And you can also break this down by supplier. So you can run a quick report to say, by supplier, what are we waiting for deliveries on? What haven't we paid yet? What are we querying? What's been referred to suppliers? It's basically a really handy summary of all your purchase orders at a point that are what you've got outstanding commitments on. Not all purchase orders, it's the ones that you've got commitments to. So our next section, operational reporting / day-to-day reporting. Operational, I had it on my very first slide in orange, and the reason for that is because operational reporting isn't really done through reports as such in my eye. The operational side is often run through the dashboard. Now, I think I might be doing a separate session completely on dashboards at some point. I don't know when it's been scheduled in, but I think if it isn't, we should do, because the dashboard is an incredibly powerful reporting tool. So that's a screenshot of a dashboard. And you all saw my dashboard earlier when I click home here. There it is. There are a whole host of dashboard widgets that fit every operational sort of role that you could think of. This one here, jobs due soon. These are jobs broken down by the next few days and how many are due and how many are issued currently. So in this list here of jobs that are due today, there are 23 due, of which 14 are issued out at the moment. So you've got this really handy report that you can click into and you can see what they are, where the jobs are at their statuses. You can break it down by client as well in monitored clients, and you can then delve into the individual jobs. Really handy report. Obviously, we've got our items requiring action with KPI days and failing the KPIs and so on. You've got that as an operational tool. We've got the jobs due this week, which is this dashboard widget here. Now, this dashboard widget, I often set up on people's systems by operative, so you can see who's got what jobs coming up this week by name of person doing them. But equally, you can do it by cost code, which isn't just cost code. That means also account manager or job owner, depending on how you've got your system set up. That could be a list of account manager names and what their jobs look like for the week. And you've got by trade as well. So if you want to see your commitment by trade over the next few days to see if the joinery team is overloaded, you can see what's happening in a really quick and easy calendar view almost, where you can then click into these and it'll take you into the list of actual jobs. Not necessarily operational, but maybe operational in terms of the finance team. They might be really interested in the financial summary year to date on their dashboard, in which case they could add that. We've got here failures. So anything that looks like it might be an impending failure in terms of a KPI that relate to attend by dates or target dates, we've got a dashboard widget for that as well. And you can click into each of those at the different statuses as to say anything that's due to fail within 14 days, have a look at those and you can keep an eye on them. We've also got, I've not added it to this, but there's also the bad assets, which is basically any assets or things that you've attended that keep going wrong. It will do a little sort of summary on your dashboard as assets that you keep going back to, so you can keep an eye on problem sites or problem assets. As a very quick slide, operational reporting, really your dashboard is your friend, and there are so many dashboard widgets that you can choose from that you could add in. Now there is a help article. So the help system, there is an entire section, I might have just gone past it, where is it? It's there, the dashboard, which talks about what the dashboard is and a guide to some dashboard widgets. That's a really good place to start because there's a little guide here about all things to do with the system, all things to do with operatives, that kind of thing. So worth a look, but I will do a session on dashboards at some point so that we can have a look at what each of these widgets do and we can ask questions and get them set up. I mentioned day-to-day reporting. It's a bit of a broad term. I've called it day-to-day. It could mean anything. I was a bit unsure of what to call it, so that's why I've called it that. But basically, it's things that will help you with your day-to-day running of the business. There's too many to go at, but I've tried to give you my top 5. Find job sounds silly, but it's the most obvious report, but the most obvious one to forget. Most people forget it exists as an actual report, and it has a million filters that you can break things down by. So you saw it before, but just to recap, find job. Look at all the filters you've got. You can literally find anything to do with the job in the system. And it will give you a nice big report that if you cast your mind back to the beginning when I showed you how to manipulate filters, it's a really powerful report. And it sounds daft to say it, but Find Job is one of my favourite reports. And often support calls that come in and people say, how can I find this information? Find Job actually is often the thing that does it. I've mentioned the job site report before. I'm not going to go into it again. Don't forget that's your Swiss Army knife of reports. Everything's in it. It's a really useful report to show you everything to do with a job in terms of dates, finances, status. I'm not going to point out that one again because you've seen it. We've also got the job visits log. That relates to engineers and what they might have done on site on a visit. So a visit is when they attend site. So that could be once on a first time fix, or it could be 10 visits, 20 visits, 100 visits on a huge job. So it gives you a breakdown of who has attended and when. So if I do a quick demo of that one, because I think this is quite a good report, the job visits log. If I do a visit range of August, and hit search, you'll see the sort of information this gives you. It gives you the trade, who it was, and it gives you the job number and when they accepted it, how long they spent travelling, how long they spent travelling after the visit, and their time on site, time off site, and the duration. So it gives you a really good sort of overview of how long somebody spent doing a task and who it was and what they left that job at in terms of status. But also we give you their labour cost for that visit. And if they delivered SOR codes, we get that too. So you can see that that operative ended the job as parts ordered, but actually the current job status is at complete. And we also get to see the signature and Ian's favourite little flower drawing that he always does on demos. So that's the job visits log. Again, you've got all these filters to go at, but it's a really handy little report to see who did what when. Survey answers by address. Now this is a really new report that we wrote. We've had reports to do with surveys before, but this is a newish one. And what this allows us to do, I'll just simply show you a slide with it all on, is it allows you to report on surveys a line per survey item, but broken down by address. Now I've taken this from a customer system, hence the blurred out bits of information there. So you can see a real life example. This is where people are replacing smoke detectors in different rooms of properties, and you can see that we've got this nice report that can be exported if you wish, or you can have sometimes even clients log on and use this report pinned to their menus so they can have a look. Not every customer gives out this as a client login, but you could. So you've got your survey answers. So this is surveys carried out by the mobile app. Now on our slide here I mentioned we've got the SOR frequency report, and I've also put in bracket also materials usage. I appreciate that's 6 reports, not 5. The SOR frequency report, not everybody works to SORs and not everybody has operatives recording them and not everybody records them in the office. So I thought it only fair to include this one as well. The SOR frequency report, if you deliver SORs as part of your contracts, whether that be the operatives doing it or you recording them in the back office, this gives you a breakdown. You can break down by customer, by contract, you can do by date that you've delivered them. It will give you a breakdown of the codes delivered, how many times you've delivered it, and how many times you've ordered versus delivered, and the charges. So you can see, you could do the sorting. You can see there I've applied a sort on SOR code, but you might sort on use count instead to see the most commonly used SOR codes. So quite a handy little report. I mentioned that not everybody uses that and some people might favour materials. Well, again, similar idea, broken down by the operative, names of which I've blurred out for data protection reasons, but also the parts that they might have used. So you've got the different materials usage, quantities and rates and costs and so on. So those are my top 5 for that. There are loads of others. So if you need anything particular, please let us know. I've put a section at the end now called miscellaneous because, again, we've got over 700 reports. There's loads of them that will be useful to one customer, and in fact the most incredibly useful report to one person but completely irrelevant to the other. So what I've tried to do is list here some of the really common ones that crop up in most of our customers' systems. So you've got things like the start of day checks. If you have the mobile app and you use the start of day checks on the mobile app, so this is usually van checks, this allows you to report on the van checks. There is a dashboard widget available for this as well. In fact, there's 2 of them. There's one that shows you negative results, so where there might be a problem with the vehicle, and then there's the one that shows you all results for today. But the start of day checks report is basically a report that allows you to report on the results of that survey. So in all reports, I'm just going to do a quick find. Start of day checks. Let's say completed date range of August. Now, bearing in mind, this is our demo system. You could do ones that are completed today that have been answered. That also works, and you can specify an operative if you wish, but that's our demo data. You can see those are the questions we ask, and those are the responses, and these are the guys that have done it and when they did. Report of survey questions answered. You saw the previous slide, a couple of slides ago, about surveys on by address. It's like that, but it basically is any survey that you might have carried out using the mobile app, you can report on it. We've got a really handy report for no accesses in period. Again, our demo data, not as thorough as what yours will be in your system, but if I do the no accesses in period report from, let's say, the 1st of April to today, and a search, we get a nice little report that shows us the job, all the different appointments that have taken place, the date of the first no access, so no access 1. We also list no access 2s and 3s. Now this system, the demo data doesn't have any of those in here, but if you had no access 1, 2 and 3, we list all those dates as well. So this is a really good report that you can send to your client when they're banging on at you about why you've not completed a job. If you can go into this report and go, well, we tried to access this date, we tried to access this date, we planned it in, we've got a next issued job in for this date, we'll see how we go. So that is a really useful report for that, and we've got loads of our customers using this one. There's a purchase order lines report, allows you to search for all purchase order lines that you've raised. So not the purchase order itself, but the actual materials. So it's really useful if you wanted to find a particular item and how many times you've ordered it, you can run a purchase order lines report. We've got our outstanding invoices. So outstanding invoices is useful if you record payments in our system, and that might be that you do applications, certificate and invoice. You might want to see any applications that are outstanding that you've not received a certificate for. Again, really handy report. Several of our clients use that. In terms of things for yourselves to sort of report on internally, we've got things like the status change report. That allows you to report on when jobs have changed status from a particular status and to another status. So you could say, show me a list of all jobs where the job went from awaiting allocation to parts ordered in this period, to see how many jobs are on hold due to that reason. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you might use that, but it's basically tracking when a job went from status A to status B. You've got visitor statistics. That shows you who has logged into your system and when they logged in and where they logged in from. So again, if you need to check who logged in on a certain day, you can do that. We've also got the audit trail. Now, I will show this because it's not just about checking up on your users. It's also a really handy tool for you working out what it is that you looked at 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago. So in your system, if I just click the home button for a start, there we go, we have a drop down menu, and in there is my recent activity. This actually steps you into the audit trail report, but with the filters already set for you for today. And you can see straight away that me as the demo user have clicked on a few bits. If I was to go into reports, oh, it's there, audit trail, and do a search for, I don't know, let's do the month. If I run that for everything and just hit search, I get a really boring report. It just doesn't really work. It says, oh, you've got 148 things. So 148 things happened. What if I wanted to break that down by the date? So we're going back to our first slide as how you run a report now. If I hit update filters, that shows me now how many things happened by date. If I was interested by, say, the user, I can bring that in. So that's by user, by date. But what if I want to see what they did? Well, I could break down by action. And that now says, what did I do? When did I do it? And how many times did I do it? If I wanted to know the very specific detail of what it was I did, if I hit breakdown by detail and now update my results, what I now get is the action, the date, and what it was I did. And so I can now click into, oh, I changed that, or I viewed that, or I created an annual leave. You can then click into each of these items to take you straight into the job. So really handy for yourself checking up on what you did, but also if there's any need to check what a certain user has been doing, you can do that. And an example of that is not necessarily trying to catch people out, but actually we had a customer phone us just the other day where one of their staff who has just gone on holiday for a fortnight had issued a load of jobs out to operatives to attend site and not followed the process properly and hadn't checked in with the tenants to find out whether they were okay with that. And so they'd issued 20 or 30 jobs out but hadn't rung the residents to find out. So they needed to find out what jobs that person had issued in the last week before they went on holiday. And this report gave them that so they could then phone the tenants and say, really sorry, we meant to ask, is it okay for us to come tomorrow? And that enabled them to do that. So it's a really handy little report. Okay, so obviously there are loads of other reports that we could go at. If there's anything specific anybody wants to know, please ask. Thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate your time. Hope you found it useful. Please join us next month. We'll be doing another one in September. And this one's quite an exciting one. We're launching our new subcontractor portal. And so this is a portal designed to reduce admin burden on yourselves for managing subcontractor works. It's going to make it easier for your subcontractors to see and manage their own work. And it'll improve the collection of evidence from the subcontractor, which will make your lives easier, make their lives easier, and make your clients' lives easier as well. So we are launching on a brand new subcontractor portal very soon, and next month's webinar is all about that. So it'd be really good to see you there. Thanks again.